All right, welcome back to Crypto Rolly, the crypto watch that never stops. Live technical analysis, price predictions, and trading. We saw some nice price action over the weekend. Dump, a little sideways, and pump today. CME opens back up today, so we'll take a look, see if there's going to be a possible gap above. Also, we have the weekly close in a few hours that will offer us insight moving into next week. So today, we will break down the Bitcoin charts. If you like these videos, hit that like, comment, tick the bell for notifications, subscribe if you haven't subscribed. All right, this is not financial advice. These are my own ideas and opinions on the market, so please do your own research and trade at your own risk. Looking at the market today, we can see we are in the green. Bitcoin's up 4% in the last 24 hours. The real volume under a billion, pretty typical on the weekend. You do see less volume, more just retail traders. And later today when the CME opens, and then tomorrow Wall Street opens back up, we could see that volume increase again. And we do see some nice gains across the board. Chainlink up 12%, Tezos 6%. So we'll take a look at altcoins briefly at the end as well. So the crypto fear and greed index last night was down to a 10. We did have a dump on Friday. We were going sideways around the 6,800. I saw there were a lot of people looking to short and afraid of a further dump, but I myself was thinking 6,800 would hold, so I was going to hold off on that, wait for the CME gap play. Looks like we are front run a little bit, but we'll get into all that in just a moment. So back down to a 10, depending on where we close later today, this could rise back up, and maybe this was a little fake out, once it drops down to real fearful moments, that's when other people take advantage, with the short squeeze perhaps, okay? So the Bitcoin block halving, 30 days away. We are 1 month away. All right, so let's look at the charts. Let's look at the charts. We can see this was Friday. We went sideways, popped back up. Potentially this is still a lower high, and possibly a head and shoulders formation that we could start talking about possibly. But guys, the CME gap play has been very, very consistent, cannot be ignored. So let's take a look at where that is going to be. So the CME actually closed Thursday. Friday it was not open. I recorded my video on Friday and was like, why hasn't the price dropped? What is going on here? Well, after the video, I looked it up real quick and I saw it closed on Thursday. So none of that price action, the dump, sideways, up, none of that exists on the CME chart. And CME will open up today, 5 p.m. Central Time, 3 p.m. Pacific. So we're talking about 3 hours away from now. And it closed at 72.90. The current price right now is 71.13. We're looking at somewhere around here. I'd say, yeah, possibly 72.90 spot to 72.50. Usually there's a slight discrepancy between CME and spot price, okay, like Coinbase, Bitstamp, one of those. So like I was saying, if CME wasn't there, if that gap wasn't going to be there, I could start calling a lower high and possibly looking for a short, but I need to be patient because we could, get a little spike up and then a dump, so possibly, wicking out some more shorts right here, or maybe we continue higher. Friday's video, I did say this level here was going to be the last level of hope. We did find support. And looking at the weekly, something very important to look at. So let's do our usual breakdown. We'll start from the weekly and move down. Since we do have that weekly close today, I think it is important to look at, all right? So taking a look at our weekly chart. So yesterday, this was looking like a wick. It was a bearish wick. This wasn't really a full body candle. The candle was much lower down here, and it was looking pretty bearish. However, with this little pump up already today before the CME even opened is kind of changing things. So I need to go back to my drawing board, so to say. Let's look at the moving averages. Your red 100 EMA is coming in at 72.96. Let's just call it 7,300. This was your support level here, now flipped resistance. What I am curious to see today is, do we close above or below it? okay? So considering that the CME gap fill will almost take us to 7,300, and that's around 3 p.m. Pacific time. The daily close, weekly close isn't until 5 p.m. Central time. That gives price 2 whole hours to potentially fill the gap and get above. That could drastically change the narrative. So, closing above this could make that push up to that 7,700, 8K level we were talking about. A close below, however, maybe this is where we get rejected and then continue down, which wouldn't be too surprising. We've talked about a month before the previous 2 halvings. We have seen a decline in the price before both of those halvings. There was a decline starting about a month. So we're in the same time frame now. It wouldn't be a surprise, okay? But we are playing that game of the CME gaps. And if you've been following this channel, you know that there's a high percentage of them filling within the first day, within the first few hours, and often the first hour or two. So we cannot ignore that. All right. And then let's take a look at our Stokes, though. The Stokes do look like, they're hinting at that cross up. You get a cross above 7,300, this will really look like it wants to cross up. So this is very interesting to see. Also, let's zoom out real quick and, look at these trend lines. I believe I still have them perfect. So if you go out to the weekly, we do have a symmetrical triangle, 1.23. And then when we dumped, we wicked back above it. So we closed these weekly candles back into the symmetrical triangle. So, if we do get that retracement, we could come back down here. This vertical line is going to be your halving. So maybe we do come back down this way. And there's 2 options. The first halving, we came down a month before the halving, and then we ended up taking off immediately. So it would look like that. So it would be down and then up. The second halving, we came down for a month and then actually for another month went down and then up. Either way, we could still maintain inside this symmetrical triangle and this rising uptrend. So can't get too bearish on the macro. Of course, you're talking about from 7,000 down to 5,500, 6,000, that's a big short-term drop. But on the macro, if you are still a believer in Bitcoin and you want to be a hodler and your dollar cost averaging, not too much to be concerned about right now, so to say. Now you close a weekly beneath that rising trend line, coming back down to 3,000 becomes a higher likely scenario. And real quick, I do want to stick to the charts, but I've been thinking about this and I want to try and make it as quick as possible and we can continue to talk about it down the road. But I'm thinking that, yes, we had the sell-off here with the rest of the traditional markets. There was a big panic. People with large hedge funds, we're talking about millions of dollars invested in stocks and, gold and oil, and they're diversified. Maybe they have 5%, in Bitcoin, something like that, 10%, but possibly just around 5% if you have a lot of, investments. You have a lot of investments. Possibly you just had a small percentage in Bitcoin. And when everything was hitting the fan and people were selling off and there was a big panic, it made sense to get rid of a high risk asset like Bitcoin. We all know Bitcoin is risky, right? Okay, so it would make sense, to be getting rid of some of that stuff. Okay, so it dropped with the rest of the global markets. However, what I'm thinking is, Bitcoin was designed for this moment now where there's a global crisis, there's a potential recession and depression coming forward. And, the recession doesn't happen in 1 month and then it's fixed. This is something that could really affect our country in the United States, as well as many countries around the world for a year or two, or several years. That's where a real recession and depression come, is like a long-term, crisis, not just 1 month and we're back. So, Yes, we're moving with the market now, but come 6 months from now, 12 months from now, if this is just a complete, like no one has a job, we're still shut down, everyone's lost money, that's where Bitcoin can really rise from that ashes like a phoenix, so to say. And basically, we have unlimited printing with the Fed, so we're devaluing the US dollar, okay? Devaluing the US dollar, unlimited printing, while Bitcoin has a limited supply. And we have the halving coming up right now, okay? So after May, after the halving, with this limited supply, making it harder to mine, difficulty mining, like this is our opportunity to rise in price while the US dollar is going to dramatically decrease in value. Okay, so that is the perfect scenario for Bitcoin. And then on top of it, we have a pandemic, a virus where people are afraid to touch things around, they're afraid to touch cash. So we have a digital payment that doesn't devalue. It's Bitcoin. So Bitcoin could be the answer, down the road by the end of the year. All right, I'm done. I got that out of the way. Let's go to the charts. Hit that like, guys. Comment. Tell me what you think about that. All right. I didn't want to be too long-winded. That's a debate we could go on and on about. But, I'm saying it might not be an immediate safe haven, but it could really become that one down the road. We'll have to just keep watching. All right, guys. Ichimoku Cloud resistance here at 71.75, price 71.20. So the other question is, say we don't close above 7,300, that 100 EMA, do we close above or below this blue conversion line on Ichimoku Cloud at 71.75? The Bollinger Bands, let's see, you do have resistance at 78.31. However, you get rejected. Your bottom support is at 51.62. You don't want to see us go that far down. Going down to the daily on the Bollinger Bands, we did maintain this middle BB support. So when we were down here, I was telling my Discord group, I'm not ready to start shorting quite yet, especially because it was the weekend. I wasn't ready. I felt like we could see a little bounce. We're shaping up to a potential another, leg up. So, I got to be patient still. It's a little bit of a game. But we did find that middle BB support, which is at 67.75. Your daily Stokes are crossing down, though. Okay, so you got a few contradictions here, so we'll keep an eye on this. The daily Stokes did cross down. But if we're super bullish, look at this, cross down as well. Looks pretty similar, and then crossed right back up, and that was on this rally here. When Bitcoin's rallying, you are going to have cross downs from the top, and the RSI will back off the overbought, but that's just to reset everything. So we can't just automatically assume we are super bearish if we're still in the bullish zone on the daily Bollinger Bands, right? Okay, and also, on top of that, the moving averages, you can see that this dump closed above the yellow 21 EMA, and not a coincidence. And then the following doji candle also closed above the yellow 21 EMA, and we have come back up to retest the orange 50 EMA. So the yellow 21 EMA is at 68.79. We did dip below a little bit, but ended up closing both of those daily candles above it. And now testing that 50 EMA at 72.17. The high was 7,200. Now, like I was saying, if the CME didn't exist, I could be potentially looking at a lower high here, considering you have this trend line coming from here. We saw how these trend lines can get you faked out when we were looking at this rising channel, and we had the initial break of it, but depends how you draw it. But we're not going to ignore 1 touch, 2 touch, 3 touch, 4 touches. So when we get down to the 4 hour, we can see that trend line a little bit closer, but we did hit that right there. And not only was it the trend line right there, you can see it was also, let me throw on the 50 simple moving average real quick. and you can see that the 50 simple came down and rejected us perfect, and so that's going to be resistance there at 72.15 as well. But you close back above these. In order to fill the gap, we might have to close back above these, and then we could attempt this price range up here around 7,800, 7,700, right? Okay, so Ichimoku clouds on the daily. Ichimoku cloud, you're also hitting this resistance here, the cloud, but you can get back above that and close above 71.75, find support on top of this cloud. That could be a nice spring up this way to this level here, okay, that price range there. Okay, so going down to the 12 hour, on the 12 hour, we are hitting resistance as well, okay? So that's why I was saying, this could be an area to short, but I'm not quite ready to do that so far. You start closing back above, finding support here. What level is that? 71.75, okay? So our stochastics on the 12 hour were falling down and starting to hint a cross back up. So you get back above there, you could get that cross up, and maybe you were not as bearish as we thought, okay? But, anything can change, and I'm willing to change my bias given the right circumstances. Now, going to the Bollinger Bands, let's take a look at the Bollinger Bands. 12 hour looking to close back above the middle BB. So you would be back in the bullish zone. That's at 7,032. Excuse me, guys. And the moving averages, you are getting rejected by this 100 EMA 72.11. So we can see, this is a critical area to get back above. Otherwise, you will be forming lower highs, okay? High, lower high. And if you dump down again, you have a low and then a lower low, and you're putting in a type of a downtrend there, okay? Going down to the lower time frame, the 4 hour. Moving averages, this was a nice healthy green candle, and then you did get continuation on the nice on the following candle almost immediately, but we did have that resistance. So the trade would have been to take it down here. I wasn't so interested in taking the long right here. And on the lower time frames, if you were watching this, I was asleep. I did have my alarm go off when we broke this right here. You had a bit of a symmetrical triangle, and I don't even know what time it was. The alarm woke me up. I saw it. It was the weekend, and I was just like, whatever. And it actually just took off. My plan was to wait for CME to open. I was hoping we would still be down here, and once CME opened, I wanted to long that. Right now, things have changed a bit. You do have the 7100 to 7125. This was, we had resistance, flipped as support, and potential resistance again. Looks like we're trading above it now at 7150, but we do have this downtrend. So it's going to be interesting because with the gap right up here, we're going to have to break above this downtrend. So the question is going to be, do we break above it, wick it, hit it with a wick, sell right back down and close like the following, say the 4 hour candles, say we close around here and the next 4 hour candle for CME comes up and then gets rejected and closes back beneath it. That will be a sell for me. So, you have a wick up, but it closes back underneath this. Very possible. Now, if you fill that and then you start closing candles above here, we could make an attempt to close back above 7,400. Okay, so, do we close the 4 hour above this rising trend line? Do we close a 4 hour above 7,400? These are the levels that you're looking at, okay? And, like I said in the last week, Friday's video, level of hope, we had this price range trading right in here, and we found support there. Perfect. Okay, so we had the support box, and it just looks like everything is playing out, your support to resistance. Okay, and look at the Ichimoku cloud. I was paying attention to this one quite a bit because you had this pretty fat Ichimoku cloud of support, and we bounced off of it. So we did close this one underneath, and I said that there was a potential for a drop just because we did close inside of it. It was the weekend, so I just wasn't interested, and I'm glad I didn't take the bait because that's what it looks like it was. And we ended up bouncing and nice little move up. Okay, so this ended up playing out. Now, if you do get a rejection, I would think that you could find another potential bounce, or we could, pause right here. And this is at 68.68 right now, because you do have support and obviously support again. I don't think we'll just drop right through it. Obviously, if it's a massive sell-off, anything can happen, but you could see this act as a potential short-term bounce or pause, a little stall, like come down, drop, okay? Or we, continue up. Let's keep it moving, keep it moving, keep it moving, keep it rolling. Nice 4-hour close above the middle BB, and your upper resistance is at 7,300. Okay, 7,300 is where that weekly 100 EMA is. And your EMA, we also close back above the 21 EMA here. And we're back above the 50 simple, this blue one here. And we weren't able to ever close a 4-hour above the dark green 377 EMAs at 73.74. So, I do want to see a 4-hour close above that, or 7,400 more exact. Because you weren't able to here, so that would be a change in trend, right? And the stochastics did pop back up. So when we were down in this region here, I was also not interested in a short, because I had, most important, we had this Ichimoku cloud support here, and we were also just riding really low down here. Something I saw interesting was, a similarity to this region here. You can see how we had a dump, sideways action. You can see where the Stokes were low, and you could see how the RSI was low, and then it crossed up and you continued, and it was the same type of fractal almost, using stochastics and RSI. And once the stochastic turned up, you were going to have a pop. Unfortunately, it did it while I was sleeping and still groggy, just waking up. But you can't catch every move. Sometimes sitting out is just as good, because, if I was just aggressively bearish, I would have probably taken a small loss there. So whatever. So that's what we're looking at. I think I've explained myself thoroughly. It's been 22 minutes, guys. We're just playing, the range, and kind of at this point, since I'm not in a long or short, I'm flat. I am waiting on Bitcoin confirmations. I want to see the CME open. Where will the gap be? Possibly play that gap, and then see where the weekend closes and go from there. Looking at the stock market for a hint of what's going to happen next week, possibly. Let's take a look just real quick. On the daily, we can see we did hit a target, and so you can see the daily Stokes are high. We did hit this orange 50 EMA target. Once we closed above the yellow 21 EMA, that became a nice target. Let's look at the weekly, see where that was. So what I'm saying is, do we break it next week and try to hit this cluster? You do have a support here. You can see how it was a support. It bounced, rejected, and came down. So, we could come back up to 2,900. We're around 2,800. Could come up there, and then get rejected, or rejected here. Your Stokes are high. So I'm looking for a pullback soon on the stock market. And if Bitcoin's going to continue to stay correlated to the S&P 500, Bitcoin could, have its pullback as well. That would make sense, right? But guys, as we discussed, at some point, Bitcoin could decouple, but for now, it's been pretty correlated. So we're going to stay on that, that trend as long as it lasts. I did want to look at the weekly there, and we'll go to some altcoins real quick. All right. So the weekly, came up. We did close the weekly above the green 200 EMA and the pink 200 simple. That's actually a good sign to, of a reversal. Above this was typically a bull market as long as you maintained above. Now that we were below, you're calling a bear market, but closed back above. It's interesting, but a dead cat bounce would also make sense. You do have your stochastics looking to cross up on the weekly, and your RSI was oversold. So yeah, it's a tough call. We'll just have to take one step at a time. It's interesting that the government unlimited printing stimulus, what bills with trillions of dollars pumped back into the economy short term. We got the bounce, but how long will this go? Are we talking about several months, 6 months, a year? So this could be a long process. Like I said, a recession is something that goes over time, right? So this isn't just like okay, we're done, guys. So this is Bitcoin's opportunity. Does Bitcoin just keep following the trend? Say the stock market keeps dropping. Does Bitcoin do the same thing? Maybe the stock market ends up bouncing again from here and Bitcoin bounces again. Or, do they go their own separate paths? We would love to see that. Okay. 25 minutes. Let's look at some altcoins real brief for those of you guys still with me. And let's look at Link real quick. Let's take a look at Link. Look at that weekly candle. I mean, whew. Link is just always surprising us. Okay, so pretty bullish. The weekly is back above the yellow 21 EMA and blue 10 simple. Let's go down to the daily. Back above all moving averages as well. You are hitting overbought on the RSI, and the stochastic is coming down, and you are still have a lower high potentially here. So this is hard to say. Link, I think when Bitcoin has little pullbacks, Link is kind of the hedge coin these days. But if Bitcoin has a severe pullback, Link will also drop severely, as we saw with the major sell-off. However, on the 4-hour, you can see it maintained above the yellow 21 EMA. Last night, I posted an ascending triangle, and we were down in this region, and looks like we are breaking above that ascending triangle. I have a target here as a horizontal of interest around $3.85. Your 4-hour Stokes are crossed up. It just depends on what Bitcoin will do, but that $3.85 was where we found support here and support here, so you could get rejected there. You break above that, I mean, a lot of horizontals, I'm going to have to start deleting some of these, but that was basically, how I was finding my ranges, support, and resistance. So Link still bullish, guys, still bullish, and could potentially see more continuation. If Bitcoin continues to rise, does Link come all the way back to $4.76? This bull flag, this was a bull flag, you have a pull up, your flag, and then pull up, and you're going to test in this region if that's full on bull flag expected move target. Is back up here. So we'll watch that with the Link, guys. Let's see, Tezos not as impressive as Link. Let's look at it on the daily. Let's see, on the daily, still chopping sideways. You're going to have a horizontal resistance. Let's say the close of this candle is $2.14, $2.15. So you're going to have a resistance at that level here. Let me throw on my moving averages. You do have the blue 50 SMA, $2.11. That's going to be your resistance. So, maybe a daily close above that. But I mean, this is still a decent daily close. But your stochastics are high and looking for a cross down. So this is one of those scenarios, where it's like, okay, so it looks like it's flagging out. You are being held down by that resistance, which looks very similar to Bitcoin, blue 50 simple moving average. So basically, the same thing I'm looking at for Bitcoin, you could look at for Tezos. If you like to trade Tezos, you're looking at the same basic deal, okay? So you need to break above that, close above that for continuation. Otherwise, this could be the top of the rally, right? Okay, so XRP and Ethereum, and I'm done. XRP, same thing, rising channel. Does it close beneath? I don't think it will on this candle, but if you do get a daily close beneath 18.5, right around here, that could initiate a drop further down, and you'd be looking at horizontal levels, around 16 to 14 cents. This one I would say first. If you do break bullish, I'm looking at this horizontal at 22 cents on Ethereum. Also has horizontal level at $174, and the next one up would be $191. Support level at 146, and looking very similar to the rest of the charts. Okay, so thanks again, guys, for watching this video, and it's been another 30-minute video, but full of information. This has been Crypto Rolly Roll. Guys, I don't think I said anything about the group April promotion. The link is down below. It's free. Come check it out. Posting trades, charts, community chat, etc., etc. All right, guys. So definitely check that out while it lasts, and I will see you next time. I'm out. Rolly roll.